Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Spotlight. I am Crystal Lampett, and I am here at the Kansas City Music Hall with the one and only Lindsey Stirling. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I appreciate you so much for taking time out of your schedule. You have a sold-out show tonight.
I'm so excited.
How amazing does that feel?
You know, I was just thinking about it today, actually. Well, we just, we're meeting with some fans, and there was some people were mentioning, I saw your first show here at, like, some tiny little rock club down the street, dive bar, and I was like, wow, that was, it doesn't seem like that long ago, and I'm just so grateful as I look out, and, like, getting to play to so many people at such a beautiful place.
It must feel so cool. This is your third time in Kansas City, so the Kansas City Music Hall is actually haunted. Are you a ghost person? Do you believe in ghosts?
I do believe in ghosts, actually.
Okay, because we've been sitting in this room, kind of hanging out, waiting for you to get here, and we're like noticing on like the chalkboard over there, it says "Go home."
What?
Isn't that creepy? I just wanted to creep you out.
Goodness, right that is a little creepy.
So you do believe in ghosts?
I do. Not a little bit, 100%.
Well, supposedly they're friendly ghosts here.
Yeah.
So you're okay.
Because they're artists from the past that love this place.
I think they're like patrons. They're just coming to watch you perform.
Exactly.
So nothing to be nervous about.
See, that's the kind of ghost that I believe in. I totally do.
A supportive ghost. You're like, hey.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your newest album and how different it is from Shatter Me.
Yeah.
I've noticed, even looking at the album art, they're so contrasting.
Right. Well, Shatter Me was kind of, in a nutshell, it was to express through a metaphor of this ballerina in this music box. It was to express my experience in overcoming depression and anorexia. And it was about like shattering the globe that, had held this ballerina captive, which in a sense was me and my mental disorder, and coming through that. And so I thought, well, gosh, what do I write this next album about? And I started to read these books by Brené Brown that just changed my life. She's incredible. She's a researcher on shame and vulnerability, and she talks in her books about wholehearted living and learning to continuously, I had taken these walls of this, anorexia and depression away from myself, but there's continual walls and peeling back the layers so that we can live with an open heart and be vulnerable. And so the album is called Brave Enough because it's about the courage that it takes to live life in that way. And I think one thing that makes this album very different from any piece of work I've ever done is that it's holistically tells one story. And so it starts off with a song called Lost Girls, and it's very cold sounding, sonically and also thematically. But it gets warmer and warmer and warmer through the album until at the end there's these very vibrant, colorful, bright songs, about, and even thematically, love is just a feeling, and something wild. And so it tells kind of the story of each song represents a step of the process that I've taken, and I'm still taking to hopefully be brave enough.
It affects everyone. And I'm curious to know, the depression, how did you finally feel that lifting? Was it a proactive approach? Was it just, reading these books, getting treatment? How did you break free from that?
Well, the depression and anorexia were 100% connected.
Linked,
Just chemically, your body can't produce the kind of hormones you need to stay happy when you aren't feeding it. And so they were very closely linked. And I had struggled with it for probably a couple of years and was getting worse and worse and worse. It started very mild. But finally, when I was, like 23, I think, I discovered, oh my gosh, I have a problem. And I finally admitted that I woke up to the fact that I needed to change, or I was actually headed down a very slippery slope. And so I went to therapy, I went to group counseling, I read books, I took a very active role in overcoming this, and if I hadn't, I would still be in it. And it was almost, it was kind of like it was a part-time job to try to, I was going to school, I was working, but I also put it as a priority because once I realized I had a problem, I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to have it for the rest of my life.
Were you working with troubled teens at the time?
I was.
Kind of what helped? Is that kind of what helped you realize, seeing other people going through it, maybe?
I think so. Well, also I was at this treatment center. I worked as a counselor, one of the counselors there, and starting to realize, oh my gosh, a lot of the girls there had depression, bipolar, anorexia, self-harm. And watching them struggle through their problems and overcoming them gave me this strength of like, how can I sit here and help these girls work through their problems, and also just seeing how much work it took for them to go through it. These girls were so brave, and realizing I need to, this takes work. And it's something that I've really come to believe so strongly in, is this idea that happiness takes work. I used to, when I was going through depression, I looked at other people and I would see them and think, some people are just naturally happy. And some of us, we just aren't.
You seem like that now. I mean, meeting you, you are so vibrant and so cheerful. So that takes work.
It does. I mean, I meditate every single day.
I love that.
It's important. And you learn the things that make you tick and the things that you react for you. And I think that I've definitely learned to take an active role in my happiness, and it's made all the difference in my life.
That's so great. I want to know your meditation routine.
Oh.
How long do you meditate? What kind of meditation do you do?
I do a mantra meditation, and so I do it, I always do it every day before I perform, for sure. And I try to do it in the mornings as well.
Yeah.
I just, for 20 minutes before a show and 20 minutes in the morning, I'll do a meditation. And sometimes I'll throw in breathing exercises in there if I feel like my body needs a little more connection to my brain.
There is something very mystical about meditation, but I think it is becoming more accessible because you can literally go online now and have a guided meditation, but from some of the research that I've done around it, and I like to meditate as well, or I try to do it. I'm not as disciplined, but I've definitely tried to get into it a number of times, and they're like, your mantra must be a word that somebody gives you, and I'm like, how do I find
how
this
do you get
person?
This word?
Where does the word come from? So it's great to hear that has really carried you through. I think we're going to kind of go into a little bit more of that here in a little bit, but we're going to take a little commercial break. Don't go anywhere. I want to hear more about your mantras and your meditation, all of the above. We'll be right back with more Behind the Spotlight. Welcome back to Behind the Spotlight. I'm hanging out here with Lindsey Stirling. If you're a gamer or if you like violin music, classical music, electronic music, you're kind of all over the place. You do it all. How did you find your sound finally?
Well, it was experimentation. I just started trying all sorts of types of genres, and I guess this search all began because I was classically trained from the time I was like 6. And in my teens, I just lost my passion. I had begged for violin as a kid. I wanted to play. And when I was in my late teens, I realized I don't like this anymore. I don't even enjoy it. And so I almost quit because of I know. I considered it. I was like, this isn't fun. Like, why should I do it if I don't love it? But I thought, oh no, I started playing with a rock band. And then I started, playing along with my favorite radio hits. And then I discovered electronic music and started writing. And it became this search for how can I make, not myself fit this classical instrument, but how can I make the violin fit me? And that's when I think I'm just such a creative little, being in my head all the time, and being able to create with the violin was what changed everything for me. And I just tried so many different genres, and so now what I do is this eclectic mix of many different styles.
It's great that you found kind of a way to revive that, because I think teenagers in general lose interest in a lot of things. It's very like, well, I'll do this now. Now I'll do this. So do you feel like, did you grow up with, just this crazy, fantastical imagination?
I did, and I owe that so much to my parents. My dad used to, he was a writer when he was in his younger days. Before he became a dad, he wrote screenplays as his hobby, and so he would read us bedtime stories of his own screenplays that he had written. And my parents have just always encouraged so much creativity, and and supported us even when I was this struggling artist that no one was listening to. My parents were always there, just being like, you know what, chase it as long as you feel it's right. They were just so supportive. Awesome. And so I really owe that, this endless possibility mindset that I have is much due to just my parents. You
seem like you would be such a fun kid to hang around, growing
we
up.
We would have been friends,
Make believe, exactly. We'd be romping around in the forest being silly.
Absolutely.
Totally. Exactly.
I
have a friend who is a lot like you, and I'm like,
really?
I just feel like, you're like the same person almost.
That's
Well,
so cool.
and speaking of your parents, which I love that they encourage you to do this, and you know, the creativity and inspiration from them. You are very inspired by them and their marriage as well, right?
Absolutely.
They're still married?
Still married, still happy, and you know, seriously, watching them makes me feel like if I can find someone to grow old together with, that, you know, we can treat each other in that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, after watching them, the key is 100% like service. They serve each other all the time. And, you know, it's almost going to make me tear up here talking about my parents and the way they just look out for each other. They always call each other their person. And, you know, and that's a huge goal for me. It's something really important. I want to be a mom someday. And, you know, balancing career with, you know, making time for that in your life is, I mean, I'm sure you can relate as well. It's really hard to balance that, but it's something, because of my parents, that it's very important to me.
Yeah, it's kind of, I've heard of people describing partnerships like you're in a foxhole together. You know, it's a dangerous world out there, and you're each other's partner. You want to protect each other and be there for each other. So are you still single? You're still looking?
I am. I'm dating.
Okay.
I'm doing my thing.
Okay.
It's great. You know, I feel like I was kind of like, I'm too busy for dating for a long time, just because
It's tough to make time for.
it's hard to make time. And also, it's easier just to say you're busy than it is to face the fact that, like, oh, you know, the rejection of, like, you know, and the awkwardness, all of it. But I'm in a much better place. Actually, writing this album really helped me as I was kind of going through these processes and learning. It helped me open up to the realization and the courage to open that door again and say, I'm ready to put myself out there.
Oh, good. Because, yeah, dating is very confrontational. And I think
is.
it just makes you realize there are parts of yourself that haven't grown as much as you had hoped, you know? And you're like, oh, maybe I should still work on that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Or maybe this is too complicated. And so, I mean, I'm sure that's just something that goes along with touring and your busy schedule. Tell me about some of the sacrifices that you've had to make to pursue your dream.
I think that's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Is, just the amount of work and time that goes into it, you know, and especially being an independent artist, I'm kind of, you're trying to oversee so many different buckets of everything. And so yeah, just the time it takes to have relationships in general, whether, you know, let alone romantic ones or whatever. It's just, I've really had to learn to prioritize. Relationships are the most important thing. You know, my family has to be the most important thing, and you know, this year specifically, like, there's just been a lot going on, you know, health-wise and this and that with family, and it's been essential for me to put that first. And it's crazy to realize that everything still runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've several times canceled everything and gone home, and it's like you think that it's going to be the end of the world.
The world doesn't explode.
But actually, everything keeps running. Like, you can prioritize and you can put things that are most important first, and your world actually won't fall apart. And that's something I've learned a lot in the last year.
Well, I think, you know, and hopefully by now you've developed a network of people who you trust, who look out for you, and you can say, hey, I need a break, I need to do this, I need to take care of some family stuff or whatever you have going on. And when you're on tour, I know that you have some rules. So tell me about how you kind of keep everything running smoothly and, you know, keep everyone in line and happy and healthy.
Healthy. We do try to have a very just like family environment on tour. You know, I hear that other tours often don't run this way, but I want you know, the performers, the crew, everybody, I want everyone to feel like they're just as important. And so, you know, but we do have I guess rules, people call them, you know, but just standards that we've had from the very beginning. Even when there was just 3 of us on the road, a rule was just no alcohol backstage, no drugs backstage, no alcohol on the buses. And, you know, of course, if people want to go out and have a good time, that's fine, do your thing. But as long as our home on the bus is kept clean and, you know, drug-free and alcohol-free. And it's kind of created a zero-drama environment. And people stay healthier. And, you know, it's just...
They don't get sick as much.
They don't get sick as much, and you know, those little things, it just has made all the difference in the world and made it so it is a very family-friendly environment.
I'm constantly surprised over and over again at how much cutting out alcohol just creates so much less drama.
Absolutely.
So fewer complications because people just make stupid decisions, which we all know this, but you know, it's still, it's like, oh, a little glass of wine here and there, and then you just, it's like, anyway.
Yeah.
That's good to know that you have it kind of running smoothly, you've got your systems in place. Have you ever found it to be challenging to be, I was saying earlier that I love speaking with female artists because I think it is empowering, and it makes me feel like, yeah, breaking glass ceilings. I mean, you made the 30 under 30 list. I mean, you have so many accomplishments under your belt now, but was it challenging before to be a woman breaking into the music industry?
I think there just isn't a lot of women in, touring, for example.
Yeah.
I remember my first year, my first almost 2 years of touring, I was the only girl on the road, because it's such a male-dominated field. And I kind of made some changes in our tour to bring on more women. I got all-girl dancers. I got,
Yes.
a girl to do our merch. Like, I just wanted to create an environment where, I'm not a raging feminist, but I do believe in bringing up women that can be an example to, like, girls in the audience that, like, you can be on stage, you can be on tour, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think women need that example. But there was something, I think just the way I was raised, I never felt like I was any less than a man ever. And I think that mindset has just really helped me in a way to think, like, why would I be treated different than a man? Why can't I tour with a bunch of boys and make it work? And, but again, that's just so much the way I was raised, and not everybody has that, has that whole thing.
That's awesome because, I can definitely say that, it's so interesting to see what we idolize now. I mean, you are this beautiful, talented young woman in a world of plastic surgery and really overhyped, sexualized women.
Yes.
Do you ever feel like there's a challenge with that or conflict?
100%. And especially even with my history with anorexia, that whole physical manifestation of an inward feeling like you're not enough. And my heart goes out to the females of today because it is so hard being bombarded with media, and especially social media, where now apps, you can adjust your face in them so that you can make your eyes bigger, you can make your nose smaller, like just on your phone. Like, used to take massive Photoshop skills to be able to do that, and now any girl can do that to herself on her phone. And I just think it's an issue that's just going to get worse and worse. And it's I don't know how you remedy that other than just women standing up. Like, I love that Alicia Keys has this whole thing now.
No makeup.
Where she doesn't wear any makeup, and she's like standing proud. And
she looks stunning.
She is gorgeous.
She is gorgeous to begin with.
It's a little unfair. I mean, if I stood up like that, I don't know if everyone would respond the same way. But I applaud her so much for that, and that takes a lot of courage.
It does. It's all about being authentic, I think, and just putting yourself out there. Well, we will be right back. We've got more coming up with Lindsey Stirling. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for joining us here on Behind the Spotlight. I'm here with Lindsey Stirling, and we have a fun little segment that we do called Favorite Four. Favorite Four. I want to start off with your favorite book.
Favorite book? Brene Brown's Daring Greatly.
And that was the author you were talking about who really helps women with self-image issues, confidence.
Yeah, I mean, men, women, it's all about learning to be vulnerable and authentic. And so it could be body image issues, it could be just self-esteem. I mean, they're amazing.
Good. Good to know. Always good to get a reference for that. Okay, and your favorite movie?
I'm going to go with the Harry Potter series. Also one of my favorite books.
Yes.
Those movies are so good.
So good, right?
I recently rewatched them, and they hold up through time.
They're back at the IMAX now, I think, too.
Really?
Like,
I will go see that for sure.
Yes, Harry Potter is where it's at. So would that be your favorite film as well?
Yes.
Favorite film. Harry Potter fans, you love Harry. It's hard to go wrong, Harry. Okay, and then last but not least, your favorite fan story.
Favorite fan moment. There was this girl that we found out through the grapevine that she was in the hospital and, with cancer, and she couldn't come to the show. And she was just devastated. She was hoping she would feel well enough, but the hospital wouldn't let her go. So my band and we went and surprised her at the hospital, which was a tear-jerking experience for sure. But we got to visit with her and, give her some posters and merch. But the best part of the story is a year and a half later, we went back to, I think it was Philadelphia. We went back, and she walks through the meet and greet line, and she has hair now, short hair, And
She in remission?
She was in remission. She was cancer free, and it was just like it makes me
gives me
tear up
goosebumps.
almost, just thinking about it. But it's so cool to see. She was a young kid, and yet she'd overcome this and persevered through. And anyways,
I love
amazing.
that. Oh, that's such a nice story of strength, and it's amazing that you get to witness so many of these stories. I'm sure it's inspiring for you too to see other people
Absolutely.
overcome these hurdles. And speaking of that, I think you talk about that a lot in your book, right? Tell me about The Only Pirate at the Party.
The only pirate at the party.
Why pirate?
Well, because there's many reasons, but
Yeah.
partially when I was a little kid, I
Yeah.
loved dressing up like a pirate, and partially because I had to wear an eye patch when I was a kid
To strengthen your other eye, right? So which one
Right.
was it?
It's funny. I can't even
Can't
remember anymore.
yeah.
They're both so darn good now.
Yeah, they're perfect now.
Ding, ding.
Got rid of that old cross dominance there.
That's
you
right.
did.
Oh, you read the book.
I've read parts, yeah. So
Nice.
you talk about some of that and the issues that you've overcome. What's your favorite chapter or your favorite part of the book?
My favorite chapters, at least to write, were the childhood chapters that kind of
Yeah.
paint the picture of this, kind of what we've talked about several times, like this world that I came from that my parents created for me and that really set the stage for my life. And, they were just quirky, fun chapters, but they all ended with, like, some sort of little moral in them. Like, without trying to go to the cheesy Full House, like, theme
I was
song
going
at
to
the
say
end.
Full House, yeah.
But it was kind of that, without being too cheesy, we tried to take it there so that every chapter ended with a little bit of a Full House
Optimism.
moral.
Yeah, a little bit of optimism,
Absolutely.
hopefulness. I like that. And don't do drugs, kids. Yeah,
That's
basically,
right.
no drugs.
Better without.
Life is better without drugs. Well, Lindsey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. You've been fantastic.
Well, thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching Behind the Spotlight with Lindsey Stirling.
So